Hey, Family Adventure, Sam here, and today we're continuing our teaching series on sacred marriage, and we've been doing this for a few weeks already, and today we are going to be talking about forgiveness and what forgiveness looks like in our marriage. So far in Sacred Marriage, we've heard from Jeremy and Jackie and Amy, and they've all done an excellent job talking about different aspects and elements of marriage and how we can grow in our marriages. But one of the common themes we've heard from all of them is it's this big idea of sacred marriage is that marriage is not primarily about making us happy, but really it's about making us holy. It's about making us more like Jesus. And so we see that marriage is a transformational tool that God uses in my life to make me more like Jesus. And transformation in our life, it's almost never easy. But it's always necessary, it's always rewarding. And one of the big ways that we are transformed in marriage is in the area of forgiveness. Because we enter marriage oftentimes with the expectation that our spouse is going to fulfill us and satisfy us in every way. They're just going to complete us. And we soon find out that we are hurt by our spouse. We're wounded. We are offended. The person that was going to fulfill us in every way now is one of the people who causes discomfort and pain and difficulty in our life. And so how do we move? How do we move beyond that? And Gary Thomas says this, I love it. In this chapter, he says, sinful people wound each other. The problem is that all of us are sinful. And right, that's just the reality. As people, as married couples, as just humans, we are going to wound one another. And marriage, it is such a close and intimate and exposing relationship that we see the very best of the person. We also see the very worst. And so one of the things that we need to do in marriage is learn how to forgive, especially when we feel like, man, that person has sinned against me, or they continue to do the same thing over and over and over again. They have these bad habits they do, and they continue to offend me. I love this. Peter asked Jesus, it's in Matthew 18, verse 21. Peter asked Jesus, he says, how many times should I forgive my brother? 7 times? And Peter thinks he's being incredibly generous because at that time, the standard was you can forgive someone 3 times for the same offense, and then you don't need to forgive them anymore. And so Peter's like, so I should forgive him 7 times. That's like a lot. And Jesus says, no, actually you should forgive them 70 times 7 or 77 times. The point that Jesus is making is you are to forgive them an unlimited amount of times. And what a great principle for us to bring into marriage, this idea that, okay, I need to forgive over and over and over. I need to continue to forgive. I don't put a limit on forgiveness. In fact, the standard for us in forgiveness is Jesus. And he's the example for us. Ephesians chapter 4, verse 32. This is going to be kind of the main verse we're looking at today. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. We are called to forgive the way that Jesus forgave us. Unconditionally and completely and fully. And even while we were enemies, even while we were far away, God forgave us by sending Jesus and just completely forgiving everything. Now, this is a hard, I mean, that's like a crazy high standard, and yet that's the example that's set for us. The problem is that's not usually our response. Our response when we are hurt is oftentimes to pull back. I want to read this short quote. It's from Sacred Marriage. And he says this, like, when we've been offended, when we've been hurt, the spiritually immature respond by pulling back, by becoming more distant from their spouse, or even seeking to start over with somebody more exciting. He says, when we've been hurt, our natural tendency is to pull back. And whether that means I'm going to just stonewall you and I'm blocking you out, I'm not talking and giving you the silent treatment, or whether it means I'm pulling back, I'm going to attack you, I'm going to offend you, but we don't lean into the relationship. He says this though, yet maturity is reached. Maturity happens by continuing to move forward past the pain and the apathy. Maturity happens in our relationship, in our marriages, as we move past the pain, as we move past the hurt. I had an interesting conversation with Stacy this week because I said, I don't know what forgiveness looks like in our marriage because it doesn't seem like every day. It's not an everyday thing that we have these big offenses that we have to forgive. However, early on in our marriage, this was more of the habit. We had to forgive each other because we did offend each other, sometimes in accidental ways, sometimes in deliberate ways, but there were grievances that we had to forgive. And we really had to work through some painful seasons, some painful times in our life, that the forgiveness, we really had to work through this. And we had to continue to say, we're going to lean into this relationship. And one of the things right off the bat, from the very beginning of our marriage, we said, for us, we're going to continue to lean in this. Divorce isn't an option for us. We're going to continue to push past all this pain, all this hurt. And so it was difficult at first. But as we pushed past that, we began to experience a more mature relationship. And I think it's kind of, if you listen to Jeremy Williford's message a couple weeks ago, he talked about this idea that really it takes about 9 to 14 years to really kind of be in sync with this other person. And I think it's kind of the same thing with forgiveness, is sometimes we have to go through some of those ups and downs and painful experiences to actually deepen that relationship. And one of the things that I've discovered is that the more that we grow in our relationship, as intimacy grows, we're not acting in competition with the other, but we're actually saying, how can we grow together? I love the verse in Ephesians 4:32, because I think one of the things that I've learned to do is to be kind and compassionate toward my wife, to forgive her as Christ has forgiven me, but really be compassionate, to really say, I'm really going to care for my spouse. And so I'm going to forgive these things. And one of the things that happens is the deeper our relationship goes on, the more trust is there. There's mutual love. There's understanding. And so even when I feel offended, I have 21 years of history that I can look back and I can say, I know that Stacy has my best interest in mind. And so I'm able to let this thing go. I don't need to make a big deal about it, because I can look back and I can say, I trust and I know that she has my best interest in mind. And I think this is also true in our relationship with God. That the deeper and more intimate our relationship with God becomes, the more trust we have in Him. And even when we experience difficulty in our life, I can still say, okay, God, this is challenging, this is difficult, this is painful, but I do trust you. And I've seen how you've acted in the past and how you've responded to me in the past. And so I'm able to move forward, trusting you, knowing that you have good things for me in the future. One last thought that I just want to give as we talk about this idea of forgiveness is, oftentimes forgiveness is not a one-time it's not a one-time conversation. It's not a one-time deal, especially when the sin or the offense has been greater. Oftentimes forgiveness is one of the things that I had the conversation. I say, I forgive you, but those feelings still continue to come back. And I need to continue to forgive the person in my heart over and over and over and over. And so sometimes forgiveness, it's not just a one and done, but I need to continue to work on forgiveness. And I need to continue to push back those feelings of resentment or anger or hurt and say, okay, I'm going to continue to forgive this person over and over and over until I can truly feel that in my heart. And so I think for us to have mature relationships and mature marriages, one of the things that we have to do is we continue to lean into each other. And we continue to work through the pain and through the discomfort, and we continue to forgive each other so that we can experience the fruit of a more mature and joyful marriage. So I hope this is helpful, and we will have some discussion questions for each of your groups. So have a great day, and hope you enjoy your small group discussions.